Welcome, everyone, to Lunch with LeAnn. Today is Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. And if this is your first time joining Lunch with LeAnn, it is a weekly program that is hosted by LINC, a Center for Independent Living in Southwest Idaho. Our guests on Lunch with LeAnn join us every Wednesday to share some fun conversation around lunch, what access and independent living means to them, and share about resources and provide some information and stories that may help us in living a life of our choosing in our communities. And we do all of this in the first 15 to 20 minutes of your lunch break. Today, we are so excited to have Kory Puderbaugh joining us today from Team USA Paralympic wheelchair rugby team. And he is here to tell us a little bit about his story and what his independent life looks like. Thanks for joining us, Kory.
Hey, great to see all of you. Hope you're doing well, and thank you for having me, LeAnn.
Yeah, we're so excited. For the quick programming note that we always plug here, please know that Lunch with LeAnn is filmed live and covers a wide range of topics, some of which might be sensitive for some viewers. Because of this, we ask that you listen responsibly and know that guests on Lunch with LeAnn are here to represent resources, information for our community, and may or may not represent LINC's official organization position views on certain topics. We would also, of course, like to acknowledge and welcome Fran, our American Sign Language interpreter. I will also note that these are available on YouTube on our channel, LINC Idaho TV, with corrected captioning shortly after our live program. Well, Kory, I got through the script part, so now we get to talk unscripted, sir. Thank you for bearing with me through that. It was harder than most because, Kory, you're an Olympic athlete, and that is awesome. And I would love to learn a little bit about you as a person. So can you share a little bit before we do that? God, I almost forgot the lunch part. I'm so excited to talk to you, Kory. I almost forgot that we nourish to flourish. So before we flourish, Kory, what are you having for lunch after the show? Let's talk about that.
After the show, I'm probably going to have some meatballs that my girlfriend made, maybe some a carbohydrate source like some bread, and then maybe some vegetables. That's going to be my lunch. Maybe some chocolate milk.
Oh.
But usually I do chocolate milk after a workout.
I love chocolate milk after a good long run. Every week when I would go on long runs, I get a chocolate milk and some ice and sit in an ice bath. It was awesome. So Kory, is that kind of how you do your meals? Is a protein and you acknowledge your carbs? It sounds a very nutritious approach to how you eat.
Yeah, so with every meal, I try and balance out all of my carbs, proteins, and vegetables. If I'm training harder, then on some days than others, I eat more protein and more carbs, specifically carbs, so that I have more energy. On days that I'm doing lighter training, I don't eat as much carbs. The hardest part for me is making sure I get enough vegetables and fruits, and that's, I think, common for a lot of people. But those are important because you have to have the minerals and vitamins. But yes, typically I eat 5 meals a day, and they're all pretty well-rounded. I don't eat until I'm stuffed. I eat just until I'm satisfied. Because I find that for me that works well, and as an athlete, you want to have energy, and the more food you eat, the longer it takes your body to process that food. So I try and time it to where I'm just satisfied for when I train or when I work out.
Kory, can I ask you a question that we did not talk about in the pre-show, so it may be a big spot, but tell me your strategy on Thanksgiving. I mean, it is November. We're about to have the large gathering of the year with all the food, and you say you don't eat until you're full. So tell me about what Kory does on Thanksgiving.
For holidays, sometimes I do eat more, but as a whole, for me, I've been living the athlete lifestyle for over a decade. So for me, it's just second nature to see the food that's in front of me, and I say, okay, protein source, carb source, vegetables, and I mean, every now, I think 1 or 2 times a week you gotta have a cheat meal, and you gotta have ice cream and things like this. You have to still enjoy life. But as a whole, the majority of my diet is pretty healthy and pretty well balanced. And for Thanksgiving, is one of those times where sure, I'll eat more, or I'll have a piece of pie or hot cocoa with whipped cream, So as long as I tell myself and I execute working out harder the day before or the day after to make sure that I, work it off. So, yeah.
I like it, Kory. You have a strategy. That was exactly what I was hoping for.
My rewards, I tell myself if I want a treat or something, I have to earn it. And I only eat it if I feel like I've earned it. Because then I don't feel guilty afterwards for consuming it. That's just my mindset. Everybody has their own mindset about it, but for me, like, health and nutrition is a very big part of my life. And, I want to, it's a lifestyle I'll always live by. So.
And it's important, right? I mean, I was reading some studies about the gut and how important it is and how we feel and how we operate. So that was a great chat. I'm going to share my food with you now, Kory, because I feel like I planned accordingly here. So I actually made a taco salad, and by I made it, it means my husband did the ground turkey yesterday and all that. So shout out to him again.
You are all set.
Yeah, but look at this too, Kory. I have an avocado that I saved in a little thing, so I'm going to put it in there for my healthy fats.
Yeah.
It just fell on the ground.
Fats are very good.
Yeah. Then I got my coffee I'm still sipping on from this morning because that's what I got to do. I have my water here in my LINC water bottle that helps me track how much water I get because hydration is important. And this is my treat. I don't do soda, but I do kombucha. And so I have a little kombucha for that flavor.
Yes. Kombucha is very good.
It is good. I like it. Well, Kory,
I don't drink soda, but I actually love these sparkling ice drinks. They're carbonated, sugar-free, like basically soda, but it's not soda, but there's no sugar. It's just flavored carbonated water. I drink those a lot, and that's kind of my version of soda.
That's a great version of soda. That I do the same thing. I have a little seltzer water with the no sugar and the no flavor added. I will say though, Kory, I feel like I can confess this. I do love a good fountain Dr. Pepper from a corner store on the road. I'm just gonna say it. It's the best thing.
Yes, yeah, we all have our things, and I have my vices as well. So it's good to have those.
It is good. Well, Kory, so you're such an intriguing person. I've got a little bit of history on you that I've looked up online that is public knowledge, and I learned you're actually from Poland, and you graduated from Eagle High School, which is pretty cool. I did notice that you were born when I was a senior in high school at Boise High, so I don't think we know the same classmates, but would you mind telling our viewers a little bit about you and where you're from, Kory?
Yeah, sure. I was born in Poland, and my girlfriend and I were actually finding out that potentially, for many years, we thought that I was put in an orphanage right away, but we don't actually know when I was put in an orphanage, and I don't know anything about my biological mother other than her name is Hannah. I came over to the U.S. a week before 9/11, and I went to a place in Florida called the Gabriel House. I was there for a few months, and then I ended up getting adopted by a family in Utah. And it's from this. There's a lot more to the story, but long story short, I've been with multiple families since, and I've been very blessed to have a lot of great people in my life, mentors, parents and siblings. And I've lived all across the US in different states. And, you know, I've always been competitive and always have wanted to have the best life for myself, from ever since I could remember, you know. So I'm very blessed. You know, a lot of people here in America think that we have a country with problems, and yes, every country has its problems, but you know, America is truly a great country, and we have amazing values and amazing people here, and opportunity.
And opportunity. Kory, that's an amazing message for folks to hear. And one of the things you've taken advantage of that is an opportunity and something you've trained and created for yourself is that Team USA Paralympic spot on the wheelchair rugby team. And you guys will see, I did coordinate with Kory today, and we have never met because I am a huge fan of the Olympics. I have been to a few incredible World Games. I've been to a couple of other really opportunities for the Special Olympics, which are pretty amazing. Kory, I have never, ever been to a Paralympic, you know, world event and games. Would you mind just sharing with the viewers a little bit of peek inside your world as a Paralympic athlete?
Yeah, sure. You know, it's a full-time job outside of a full-time job in terms of the lifestyle. But the actual games, normally for Tokyo, there was not very many spectators just because of COVID. But, you know, when you're playing in front of 20,000 people, fans, and on TV for millions of people at back home, it's you can't put it into words, you know, especially when you're wearing that red, white, and blue. And, you know, when you're in the country for the games for 2 weeks, you know, it's like a Cloud9 experience, you know, and it's really something you just have to experience. And, you know, it's a blessing, but I've been fortunate to be a part of for twice now. And it's something I take with great responsibility, pride, and joy. You know, it's thrilling, amazing, and at the same time, you know, you're there to get a job done. It's you know, you're there to represent your country, to represent doing your best and bringing home a gold medal. So yeah, it's when I first started the sport, I never would have thought that I would end up here. You know, I used to wrestle before I did this, and I used to have prosthetic legs, and I'm like, why would I ever get in a wheelchair to play a wheelchair sport when I wrestle? You know, I thought I was really cool by wrestling. And, you know, I tried the sport out after 6 months, and I was just astounded by how hard it was and also what it involves, you know. And it's not an easy sport as sometimes it may seem like it is. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't know if it ever seems like it's an easy sport. I mean, rugby's pretty hardcore. And so I mean, I respect it. I would never say rugby's easy. And when you went to Tokyo, though, did you have some favorite memories? Like, what was that experience like, Kory?
Oh, yeah. Tokyo, you know, I told Cassie, my girlfriend, I said, you know, I definitely would not mind living there at some point just for a while, because the people there are just amazing. They're humble, respectful. They love hosting people, and they just have a genuine heart of, you know, love, and they want to support the people around them and you know, make them feel at home in their country. And the food was just amazing. Sushi, the udon noodles are my favorite. They have this little pistachio cake that I love with real pistachios in it. And you know, it was different to not play with a crowd. In some ways it was nice because we could all hear each other, but in the other ways, like, I love playing against the crowd. When the crowd is chanting against me, it just fuels me to play that much harder. And you know, we didn't get the outcome that we wanted to, but as a whole, you know, it's just incredible, and I'm very blessed.
Well, I can tell you, I was keeping up on some of the activity there in Tokyo, and so it was a proud game, I think, for both events that happened in those amazing Olympic villages in Tokyo. So, Kory, as a Center for Independent Living, we're all about like living the life of your choosing. And you're not only, an Olympic athlete, you are also, a boyfriend, it sounds like, and I know you love the world of finance. So what does your life outside of, Paralympics look like?
Yeah, sure. Well, for the last 3 years, I worked as an accountant, 40 hours, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. And trying to get 20 hours in of training on top of that was pretty difficult. And sometimes it would be less, sometimes more, life isn't always, you have to adjust. But I have a huge passion for finance. Like a big portion of me never wants to be reliant on other people or the government to take care of myself or my needs. And I have always wanted to do more than the people around me, because I think a lot of people, they set their status bar of what they think they can do too low, and I truly believe it's all about mindset and attitude. And people in the quote unquote handicapped community, from the outside world, that's what they look at our community as, people with like good attitudes and healthy spirits, and but from a young age, I always knew I wanted to make a big impact on this world, and I wanted to set the status quo higher than most quote unquote normal people do. Both because I wanted that life for myself, and also because I wanted to show the world that, like, you really can do anything you want in this life. You just gotta set your mind to it and work your butt off to get there. And you're gonna have your hard days where you just wanna throw your hands in the air. I've had many days like that. But if you remember why you're doing what you're doing, and imagine where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, it's, and you know your why, and you know what's driving you, then nothing's going to stop you. So, if you have a good mindset, if you have a good attitude, and you're in charge of your own book. We all are, and how we choose to write it is a choice, and that choice you have to take seriously, and you have to think about every day. What choices are you making to write your book? Because every day you're writing your book. So that's how I view it, a big part of my life. And I mean, I know it sounds serious right now, but that's my driving force, but I still am a normal person. Like, I still like to play video games, and I still like to, go outside and swim, and, like every now and then I'll have a drink, like I'm still a normal person, but I just have those high expectations for myself and high standards that I want to achieve and work towards. I'm not perfect at it either, I mean, sometimes you fall down, you just get back up and keep going.
I love that, Kory. What an important message, and I think resource for all of us in the world, to know that our greatest resource is ourselves, and that mindset that you talk about. How we view the world is often a big part of our journey and our independence. So, yeah. Kory, I just really appreciate that.
And I think one other thing that's important too, and people who with more experience in life know this very well too, is you have to not be a victim. A lot of people in today's day and age, they say, why is this happening? Like, what did I do to deserve this? Or they'll be like, but instead, that's an opportunity if you look at it that way. You could say, what is this situation trying to teach me, and how can I become better because of it? But again, it comes down to choice, how you choose to view things in life. Are you going to choose to look at it from the standpoint of victimhood, or are you going to choose to look at it from the standpoint of how can I turn this into something that I can win at, or that I can overcome, and move forward with my story that I'm writing for myself.
Kory, I love that. We are wrapping up our show, and I think what you just did, Kory, was the best call to action that I have heard. And it really was a call to action for those of us to ask ourselves how we're approaching something and choose, decide that space. And you said it way more elegantly than I could. And so, Kory, I'm just going to take this moment to appreciate your message today and thank you definitely for joining us. It was fun to talk about food. It was fun to hear even what I know is a very incredible long story of your life in a quick little snippet. You are an incredible example of living the life of your choosing and working hard, doing the work to get that life. So, on behalf of all of our viewers and LINC and the show, I just want to thank you for being on here today.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you guys so much for having me, and I wish you guys all the best in your coming weeks and holidays. Don't forget to enjoy the turkey and the pie, may the best be with you all.
Yes, and for that, I will just add, ciao for now. We will see you next week. Thanks, guys.